Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This is part 2 to the question and answer session that I started a few weeks ago, and it's on the back of the 9k subscriber giveaway video. So last time, I think it was over an hour and a half, I was falling asleep through the video, but it was all the questions that you guys gave. So we're down to the last 7 pages. I'll try and keep the answers possibly a bit shorter, but if I need to go into any further detail or depth, I will do so. And I want to try and finish this off today if possible. So let's get straight into it. And of course, thank you guys for all the questions you're sending in. Very detailed and in-depth questions. So the first question on part 2, so we're starting from page 11. Congratulations on growing the channel. It's heartbreaking to see a useful and informative channel suffer financially compared to the horrendous garbage that attracts millions of views. The question for me, having followed the channel from the beginning, how much time do you spend in a week filming and editing the videos? Cheers. And the question is by MD. Yeah, so this question kind of ties in with what's been going on with myself recently. I have reduced the amount of videos I do, and I've noticed other YouTube subscribers also do the same. I've seen a couple of posts here and there. I've looked at the usual, like Honest Watch Reviews, Jason, and all the other channels out there. It's very difficult to maintain that work-life balance, especially a lot of us, this is not our main job. We're quite busy with jobs, and you've got families. I mean, I've got 2 children, work, etc. So you don't have a lot of time, and if you're going to do anything out of this as well, you got to look after your health. So if you've got like a workout regimen you're trying to do, any hobbies, because when it comes to this level of watch reviewing, it kind of is away from hobby-ish. You still enjoy it, but it comes into work. A few of us get burnouts as well. So I used to spend a lot of time. I mean, let me give you an example. I think on one video, if it's a dive watch, a lot more features to discuss, etc. And if you do B-rolls in your videos, if you noticed a long time ago, my videos were just straightforward talking to a box. They're much easier to edit. However, videos where you got B-rolls and you've got fancy visuals, etc. Yeah, a normal video can take about an hour, and edited, especially for me, is 15 minutes afterwards. So there's a lot of in between things you're doing, changing out bracelets. That's why I don't do strap changes a lot, because it takes time. I don't know if you want to change something, even sizing up the watch, before the review, etc. So yeah, about an hour actually doing the video, if not more, because you got prep time as well, specs, dimensions, getting all that done, and then recording B-roll footage, and then actually doing the review. And I'm not sure about the rest. I never script my reviews. They're all freestyle. I say it, as I see it. Only thing I write down is stuff like this, just specs on a piece of paper, and the important things I need to mention. Other than that, I just go with it. And you get a lot of ums and ahs, as you do. So there's a lot of heavy editing involved as well, which can take another hour and a bit. So quite a lot of time, and that's where I think you kind of start to burn out. Yes, you can do things, you can create a structured approach, where you reduce that time, but still, it does take a lot of time. It has to be your job, this YouTube stuff, in order for you to be kind of, doing it day in, day out. So the next question, Scott Selkirk, do you wear many of your own watches, or are you always wearing watches that are in for review? It's a good question, and I think a lot of reviews say they test out watches and wear them and all that, but if you're banging out 5-6 reviews a week, where are you getting the time to wear the watch? And to be honest, at a certain level, when you've looked at hundreds of watches, thousands of watches, you don't need to wear them that long. You can tell within an hour of wearing a watch, less than that, if you wear around the day. So to answer your question directly, if I like the watch, then I'll wear it for a couple of days. But if it's not something which I like myself, I'm just reviewing it, I won't wear it that much, because I know what the watch is like, and mostly I do wear my own collection because I got a lot of watches to kind of rotate myself. So on that point, on wrist today, I'm wearing the Seiko Samurai. So hopefully that answers your question. Next one, Daniel McCarthy. Why is the actual water resistance of a watch so much less than the advertised water resistance? For example, I see watches described as having 100 meters, but then hear that it's only safe to take swimming. Surely if it's 100 meters, you can dive with it. Yeah, I should think that, and I don't really understand it 100% myself, in all honesty, but there is a sort of chart you get with it. So it's 100 meters, it means swimming, 200 meters is diving. I don't know. 30 meters doesn't mean you can go 30 meters. It means just you can shower with it. If anybody knows the ins and outs, please put your kind of answer in the comment section just to answer that question. Next one down, 83 Geeman. Do you own any digital watches? What gets the most wrist time? I own one digital watch, which is the G-Shock. I featured it on this channel. I've done a review on it. Put that tactical sort of black metal casing on it. I only wear it when I work out or when I'm doing some gardening, something which is going to get banged around a bit. But that's the only one that I really have that's digital. Next question, Philo. Congratulations on the 9k subs. Tremendous achievement. Thank you very much. You certainly do a terrific job and wish you continue to get success. Thank you, Philo. It really means a lot. My question, if you had a second YouTube channel, not about watches of course, what else would interest you to review and discuss about? Thank you again for your excellent work and generosity. So before this watch channel, I did have some videos on YouTube. It wasn't a YouTube channel, it was just videos I put on there. I'm not sure if they were public or not. Yeah, they were. And I had a hobby. I was into tropical fish keeping. So it was like cichlids, predominantly South American cichlids. A lot of cichlids out there in America where you guys are. And I started off with, your usual community fish. Then I went to a bit more like territorial fish, like aggressive cichlids, bigger cichlids, like true parrots, etc., red terrors, tiger cichlids. And then I went to like predators, so snakeheads, arowana, stingrays. That was my like peak. I had a 3-tank setup in my front room. My mom was going absolute berserk, trying to kick me out the house because just damp everywhere. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I was really into it, and the beauty of it was I had a good friend of mine into the hobby with me, so we'd always be up and down the UK together, looking at different fish. I had like datnoids and all sorts, and I was, I know a lot about it. And if it's anything that I'll go back to as a hobby, would be fish keeping, and maybe I might make a channel about it because I did learn a lot, and I just really got so madly into it. So hopefully that answers your question. Last one, James Sound. Okay, so what was the last quartz watch that you owned, and what's the most you would pay for a quartz? Perhaps thinking about some awesome quartz watches you have noticed around. So that's the second question by James, I believe, and that's no problem, James. Okay, so quartz. What's the last one I bought? I can't remember. I do buy quartz watches. I think it was the one I purchased myself was a SURP. I think that's Seiko 36mm. So as long as it looks nice and it looks different. So most of my quartz collection, I'll do a state of the collection video soon enough, is a lot of the 2000s and before quartz watches from Seiko, because they all had personality. They were quite individual. Nowadays the quartz watches, they're quite, how do I put it, they're quite common. There's nothing that makes them stand out. They all look the same, so I've got mostly, I think, chronograph quartz watches, but if you go back to some of my state of the collection videos, I've got the same watches that I've had since then. And again, it's all about that look, the feeling you have when you look at it, and that unique take from Seiko, something quite different. So thank you for that question. So next question is by Andrew Owenden. Hi, congrats and keep doing the same kind of content. My question would be, would you be up for doing a mod combining best features of the Seaston and Tactical Frog? Yeah, why not? It's not something you can mod though, because I think for me the best features would be, let's say, maybe the case of the Tac Frog, the bezel of the Seaston, and the dial of the Seaston, but with the applied markers of the Tactical Frog, and also the color, of the Tactical Frog. I think they're a bit more vibrant that they used, but it's not something that you can kind of mod, but you could probably go around creating one, I suppose. So thank you for that question, Andrew. Next up, Tom Frost. Congrats on the milestone. Love your videos and reviews. Thank you very much, Tom. And with that, my question is, how do you choose the format and presentation for your videos? How did you choose it for your first video, and did you change anything along the way? Yeah, so for guys that have been subscribed for a long time, and I can see you've been subscribed for 11 months, Tom, in the beginning there wasn't much thought into it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just watch YouTube, and as I've grown, you become less tech savvy as you go along. But first of all, it was just a camera, not the best video quality, not the best audio quality. I didn't pay any mind to that, but plus you're just starting off, so you're not going to go back and start spending a lot of your money on YouTube, not knowing where it's gonna go. So it was literally a little light box. Put your hands in there, and take the review. So it was quite amateurish, and those videos, they've got lots of views, but not that many subscribers because I think the videography wasn't there. Now I have changed it. I've put certain things in like specs and dims at the start. Then I always start off with the dial, give you that detail, things that you can't see through video. Always, and not always mention the obvious. So I want to get away from talking about the things which you can see. I always catch myself doing. I think everyone does it as well. So I do want to streamline my reviews going forward, and again, saving time. So not call out if there's applied logo perhaps because you can see that, but talk about things that you can't see, for example, or what I like, or what the dial does well, or what the watch does well. So I'm just gonna kind of change it up a bit more, and to streamline and give you like value add information rather than stuff that you can just call it and see it yourself, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've started putting b-rolls in there, not on every video, and like in terms of people do outdoor shots, I tried it for a bit. I don't have the time. You have to wait for the weather. You gotta, because my loft is where I do my work, so I gotta get all the watches down, and I'm very lazy and efficient. I don't like doing things which take time, and they shouldn't. So yeah, I'm gonna further streamline these reviews if I can. Next question by Nugen Quack. Hi. Okay, congrats for the milestone, buddy. My question is, do you ever get tired of the same homage watches? And if yes, how do you keep the passion for homage watches growing? I, for instance, get really tired of the Rolex-ish homages and mods around me to the point of hating the Mercans. I think they've been copied too much for my liking. Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, my passion is for watches. Homage watches, I look at the quality. But yeah, I get what you're saying. The Rolly homages, sub homages are just everywhere. I am tired of them because it's a very simple case. I like different things as well now, especially what you can see though with a lot of the brands, they are looking at different watch brands to homage. IWCs, Tudor, just different Zenith. Getting away from all that Rolex stuff. So yeah, I think it's the same for everyone really. Next question down, Mark Bernardine. How rapidly do automatic watches deteriorate when not in use for months or years? For example, if an NS35 isn't used as much, will it still work well in 10, 15, 20 years? Mark, it's difficult to gauge that because I don't service watches, so I don't see how they deteriorate. And what I can say though is a lot of the older movements used mineral oils, or let's say naturally occurring oils, or like oil-based, petroleum-based, whatever. So they needed a bit more servicing. You couldn't really have them stopped for long. Whereas the newer watches, it's all synthetic grades. They don't kind of jam as much. So I think if you keep your watch, if you use it once a week, it should last quite a fair while. When I say once a week, I mean you use it for a few days a week. They should last quite a long time. But I think NH35s, they can go for 5 years plus, if not 10, depending on the beating you put through it. But at the same time, it's a 25-30 pound movement, so you want to service it, just replace it if you were kind of hands on like that. Hopefully that answers your question, Mark. Superfly Micro. Next question, Superfly Micros. Congrats. Do you like when a company makes a movement beat rate slower just to increase the power reserve? Quite a particular question. So the only thing I've seen that is in the Tissot PRX, and I haven't seen a Tissot PRX, but yeah, they reduced their beat rate and added a 70-hour power reserve. I don't think you need a 70-hour power reserve. If you've only got one watch, don't need it at all because it's automatic anyway. If you've got a collection of maybe 3, perhaps you need it. But if your question is like 10, 15 plus, you don't need that much power reserve because, which watch do you want to keep running, I suppose. So I don't really know why people like 70 hours power reserve. For me, 40 is more than enough, really. And that's it. Last question on page 12. Varis, congrats on the 9K. How glad are you that you didn't just focus on Seiko and Seiko homage like it was in the initial plan of your channel? Now, Varis, I like that question a lot because it shows you've paid attention for a long time, and he's absolutely right. In the start of my channel, I had my Seiko collection. I wanted to be just my channel, so I was saying that I just want to focus on Seiko and Seiko homages because that's what I know. But saying that, you've got to cater to subscribers. That's the reason I got to 9K, is catering to everyone, and it's also kind of expanded my watch knowledge. So I've looked at other things, by looking at different homages. So yeah, I'm kind of glad. But from what that's done is split my hobby and the work. So for myself, I still collect Seikos. I've recently just bought a Citizen, so I'm still doing my own thing in terms of my own hobby and focusing what I know. However, for the review side, I'm looking at just basically everything that you need me to look at, basically. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so next question by C. Limansky. Congrats on the milestone. Aside from fit and finish, is there one quality aspect of a watch that is a deal breaker for you? Misalignment, bad loom, etc. See, I can handle misalignments because I think from a manufacturing perspective and the industry I'm in, I know there are slight tolerances unless it's something really bad. But even like Seiko misalignments, I'm not too difficult with that. I'm not too particular with that because I've seen so many watches now, and there are elements of it. Of course, it's nice having a perfectly aligned watch, but not a deal breaker depending on how bad it is. Bad loom, kind of, yes. Even though we rarely use loom, I think majority of us don't even use it, but it's a nice to have. It's something to look at from a point of view to the customer. You want it present. Even bezel rotation, yeah. I think many things together, then that's a deal breaker. Fit and finish, I think, is more so. If the finish of a watch is poor, that's a bigger deal breaker for me than misalignments or bad loom. Okay, so thanks for that question, Mr. Limansky. Okay, so next up we have Steph Bakum. So you've been a subscriber for a year, so that's some time you've done there, mate. Congratulations on the milestone, well deserved. My question would be, what is your day-to-day job and what can established brands do to keep up with micro brands that push the limited specs and price? Thinking about Loom, Dome, Desire, Dome Sapphire, Spec, etc. So my day-to-day job here, I'm a QC engineer for a very popular, well-renowned OEM car manufacturer within the UK. A lot of you guys can probably guess. Title is like a resolve engineer, so solving supplier parts quality problems, etc. So in terms of what can established brands do to keep with micro brands, it's a tough one because micro brands don't have the same overheads. There's a team of, I don't know, few people which rely on the sales of that, so they can push the specs. And we know now sapphire isn't expensive, ceramic isn't expensive. The only thing which would be pricey is maybe even cases aren't expensive, right? If it's really highly finished, and the majority of them are done in China, and then possibly some additional finishing within the supplier or the manufacturer. QC adds a fair bit of cost, of course, but aside from that, it's not overly expensive. But I think they need to look at some value for money and maybe step ahead of the curve. So maybe supply more premium features, things like Loomcast, which a lot of micro brands are doing now. So it's the next level up in terms of loom application. So little things like that. Next question by Mr. Mark Kuzminski. Congrats on reaching 9K. I wish you all the best for continued growth and success. My question is, what do you do as emerging trends? My question is what to do. What do you do as emerging trends in watch design, and how do you see these trends filtering into the affordable microbrand market? They are trendsetters, vintage, smaller. Yeah, I think the question is, how do you kind of see the emerging trends and how you see them filtering into the affordable microbrand market? I kind of see it the other way around. I think microbrands are kind of setting the trends now. They're slightly ahead of the curve. If you look at what's quite popular now is these vintage divers. A few months ago, actually, now they're kind of starting to slow down. But microbrands brought those out, right? The 38mm vintage divers, the skin divers, that's quite big. Now we're looking at kind of field watches, the smaller 38mm. And I think, the mainstream watch companies are just a bit behind, maybe about 6 months to a year after. If you look at Christopher Ward, for example, they've only just produced a 36mm version. So yeah, I think it's the other way around, possibly. So next question by Mark Bonifate. 2 years. You've been a subscriber for 2 years, so good on you, Mark. So do you think that given the quality of homage watches, they might just be coming out of the same factory as the original, or do you think they get the original dissected to such a degree they are able to create them to a high level? I think it's a bit of both, because there's a lot of watch cases being produced in China from a lot of the mainstream brands, so they just sneak them at the back door, for example, and a lot of it is reverse engineering. As we know, China from 20 years ago are steps and steps ahead, and you could get different levels of QC from China. It's what you pay for. So with regards to that, they're kind of getting better. So more factories are looking at different ways of finishing, and I think a lot of it might be a mix of both, but a lot of it is, I think, the latter in terms of reverse engineering. Using CAD machines, firearms, etc., to get a accurate imprint of a watch. I mean, I think stuff like Heimdallr, that's what they were doing, buying Seikos and sending them away to get reverse engineered, and not fully. No, they weren't one clones, but I think there's a bit of that. So thank you for that question, Mark. Next question by Mr. Farid. Well done to the milestone. The question is, I often find myself wondering what I'd keep if I had to limit my collection to 3 watches. What would be your picks? It's a tough one, Farid. It's a tough one, man. When you're into watches at this level, you can't have a 3-watch collection. But if it was, you have to pick the best dive watch. You have to pick the best dress watch, smartwatch, casual, and the best sports watch, I suppose. And then do you put a quartz in there? Do you put a digital watch in there? It's very tough. It is. I mean, it's for maybe for the high-end collection, it's a lot easier to do that. So if you had, I don't know, an IWC, an Audemars Piguet, a Rolex, probably easy to manage that one. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you for asking. Okay, so next up we have Hoodoo8. Congrats, sir. My question is, what are your top 3 watches with the best, most interesting dials you have seen in person? It can be any watches. So I guess you know the answer already. Seiko. Seiko are a fantastic dial making watch company. They do some of the best dials. That's something that nobody can deny. Some of the ones I've got the Cocktail Time Presage. You've seen that on video. I just love how they've done that gear shape pattern. Plus that sunburst. It is very difficult to replicate from the Chinese companies from AliExpress, because they replicate a lot of dials and they can get them pretty accurate. I think case in point was the Heimdallr, that snow or the frost version. I love that dial. I've also got a Seiko Baby Tuna frost version. Again, great dial. And these are just personal ones that I have. So there's also the Save the Ocean, the Manta Ray, the Dark Manta edition. So yeah, stunning dials from Seiko. Now the ones that I haven't seen, you got the GS's, also the Saab 37, that pink dial. So yeah, it's just Seiko for me, I gotta say. And I think one of the most interesting dials from AliExpress, for example, was the Proxima PX something or the other. It was a 62 mass basically, and they had they modified it where you had the inner date wheel, and it was like the black and white coloration. So that was quite an interesting dial, and I like how they've kind of modified that. So hopefully that answers your question. Sorry, I didn't realize I had my fan on in the last question, so I'll turn that off now. So next question is by J Gem. 2 years you've been subscribed for, so another long-term subscriber. It's good seeing a lot of these long-term subscribers still around. Thank you guys for your support, as always. So the question is, seeing as this explosion of Chinese homages has been a relatively recent thing, how do you see the future of it going? Will the customers who bought the majority of homages begin to stop buying the real deal, and the grail watches and the demand will die down for homages, or will new people to the hobby fill the market instead? So you've got 2 questions. Let's answer the first one. I think it might be kind of cyclical. So the new people coming into the hobby, the homage watches allow more people to come into the hobby. If there weren't all these homage watches around, I don't think a lot of people would come into it. And we're not even talking about the market for like the clone watches, the fake watches. They have their own niche going on as well. I think they can only get better, and I think when some of the brands get established, they'll have the confidence to go into like original sort of designs. But for the most part, I think it'll keep going. We can just see we're seeing more and more advancements. For just under £200, it's absolutely incredible what you can get from AliExpress. And there's no doubt in my mind that they are better than watches even over £1,000. I briefly compared a Christopher Ward to like a bunch of homages as an example to show, they're not far off at all. They have issues which are not watch related, if that makes sense. They're more on branding and just overseeing certain things, and it's clear to see when you look at one of these brands from AliExpress that the person who's gone about getting it made, how much they know about watches. Some of them haven't got a clue. That's why you see some things which just off with the watches. So the second question is, which of the Chinese AliExpress homage brands do you think would make the best watches, design, build quality, price, if they were only allowed to make original designs from tomorrow? I think San Martin, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. You'll have Seastern as well. Heimdall would make entry level. Let's say Seiko equivalent. What are the brands? There's a lot. Pagani Design, obviously. They would make reasonable watches. They'll have issues like they do right now. So congrats on the 9K. Love the content, keep coming. Thank you, J Jim, for the question. Now, Mr. OG, who is your favorite superhero? And if you had the chance to meet your favorite superhero, which watch would you give them as a gift so that it goes perfectly with his personality? That's a great question, Mr. OG. Favorite superhero? Yeah, Batman. So let's not get into the debate if he is or not. Batman's the GOAT. But yeah, what watch can you give Batman? Can't give him Jack. But I think I'll give him the baby tuna yellowfin. Matches his the black and yellow attire, if that's what he's wearing. So that's a great question. Next question, Paul W. Well done on reaching 1K. It really does surprise me that you didn't reach it sooner. Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's down to, I think, the video quality from the early days. But we're in a very competitive market as well, so I'm not too fussed how the subs are going. I'm happy, the time they're taking and the direction they're going in. Which watch will you never sell? I haven't thought about this. There's a bunch of watches I won't sell purely because you can't get them again. I've got like Gen 2 Seikos, I've got some Saabs, etc. I've got some quartz watches, but never say never. You can leave the hobby and you might not feel the same way about watches and you might get rid of them all. So so thanks for that, Paul. And next one, J Owl. Question is, congrats on the 9K. My question is, with all the watches that you review and the hours you spend recording, editing, replying to comments, what is the one thing you don't actually like about being a YouTube watch reviewer? The editing, the editing is a pain, to the point. And because I don't script, I make a lot of mistakes. So I can make a 40-minute video. After editing is 15 minutes, 12 minutes. Of course, that's me. Some of it is waffle, going off on tangents, etc. Because there's a lot of information to get out there. I don't want my reviews to just simply be, just here's the watch, look at it, because you can do that yourself. I like to tell you things which, you won't be able to see. Because one of the issues I had watching YouTube reviews for watches was every review was very generic. So at the end of it, you don't know if the watch is good or not. And with me being so particular, I want a certain detail, certain aspects I like to look at. That's why I go into great depths, kind of describing what I see on certain watches. If a watch has some unique kind of finishing which you need to see, for a while, I'll talk about it for another 10 minutes. It's the editing side of it. Everything else is okay, and just the time it takes to do, in and around your work life and home life, etc. So yeah. So next question is by BRM. Congrats on the 9K subs. Which watch would you take to a desert island with you? So I think some would say dive watches, but on a desert island, you're not really looking to dive unless you're about to escape or not, depending on how you got there. But for the most part, something like solar powered, so a solar powered quartz diver, maybe. The best bet would be a solar powered dive watch, so maybe like a Citizen or definitely a Seiko diver. So next question is by Sean Cummins. Is there a watch in your collection or that you've reviewed that has changed how you see other watches? Homage watches, definitely. So let me kind of explain. So me and my mate are heavily into watches. Now, before homage watches, before I got really deep into homage watches, you're always looking for the next watch, next Seiko, this, that, the other, and even different watch brands. But it's when you look at so many watches, it's difficult to want to buy another watch because Some of them are really well made, some of them really well finished. So why would you spend another £400, £500 for just a brand? I'm not geared that way, but the brand does have some sort of value to me, I gotta say. But it's gotta be good as well. I can't just have a good brand and the watch is just crap. And I think Seiko as well. Now, the reason I say Seiko is because I've been into Seikos, I haven't had the need to branch out to other watch brands, because Seiko has such a diverse and kind of eclectic at the same time as very complete range. They do everything, every design possible. So if you want a field watch, you can get that from Seiko. You want a diver, you can get that. You want a dress watch, you can get that. You want a throwaway, quartz watch, you can get that. And just how much Seiko has brought to the watch world, the watch community. If you just go onto Seiko's website, I think, and it talks about the world's first that they did. I mean, they made quartz, for example. So yeah, they've delivered so much, and plus the ranges they do, entry level, budget, and really top tier. Like that spring drive, it's something that is just untouchable. Still love that to this day, and eventually I'll probably get to own a spring drive myself soon enough. So hopefully that answers the question, Sean. Next one is 3 liter. Yes. So I'm also shifting into doing what I love. Okay, so it must be a very good feeling to experience growth, and I hope it keeps going. Thanks, 3 liter. The question is there a vintage watch that you would like to see either reissued or homaged by an AliExpress company? A reverse or homage would be interesting. Yes, it would. Yeah, maybe like a vintage Seiko. Yeah, I mean, there's something called, I saw not long ago, I missed out on a deal on eBay, to be honest. It was £150, mint, very old watch. It's called a Seiko Matic R. I just really like the case shape, and I don't know what stopped me. Yeah, I should have just bought it, to be honest. It was a hand winding, mechanical watch, or like a vintage Seiko. Nothing particular in mind, I have to say. I want to see a Saab case come out on AliExpress as well. There's a hell of a lot of modding you can do with that as well. So hopefully that answers your question. So next one is Nho J Villian. Definitely not saying that right, but you've been subscribed for about a year. So the question is, congrats on the 9K. You're just brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it. I want to ask if you, when you first got into the hobby, ever got a bit ashamed obsessing over watches. I sometimes find myself holding back from sharing, as some find it a bit weird. I shouldn't be embarrassed, number one. Like I said, I'm fortunate because I realise not a lot of people have this whole watch fanaticism in common with like friends, family. It's normally other watch enthusiasts. But I think the people around me, my mate, he's into watches, so we have a lot of conversations and discussion about watches. But out of that, like work or something, someone asks me a question, I'll let them ask the questions. So depending on how deep the questions go, then I'll just unleash on them. I don't really care what they think. I'm just letting them know what I'm into. And I'm quite quick to correct people. So if somebody says, look at this new watch I've got, it's a Hugo Boss, I'll let them have it, only for the benefit. And then let them know, look, go on to something better. It's not that much more expensive. So yeah, just be you, let it out. If you want to speak to somebody, not randomly go up to people. Obviously, that's a bit weird. Be called the watch stalker or something. But other than that, just if someone asks you, yeah, let them ask first, and then give them all you got. So next question is, I can't say that name, but definitely I think it's a Polish name. So Siatezkowi Potwa. I do apologize. I need to brush up on my Polish, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So you've been subscribed for about a year, and the question is, congratulations on 9K. My question, when did your adventure with watches start? What was your first watch, and do you still have it? How many watches do you have, and how do you store your collection? How often do you visit watchmakers or service mechanical watches? Okay, so a few questions in one. I've already spoken about how my watch adventure started. The first watch I have, not as a child, but as a grown person, like when I got into watches, or what led me getting to watches, I do have those watches. There's some Armani watches. How many do you have? I don't know. I did try to reduce the number I have. I'll do a state of the collection very soon. And I've got, I think it's hitting 45 again, 50. So I need to do some further reductions. And in terms of how do I store it, just in watch boxes lying around the table, unfortunately, just anywhere. It's got to that point. And how often do you visit watchmakers? Never. I wouldn't service a Seiko movement, and this is the beauty of it. That's why I'm into Seikos. You don't need to really service them. When it comes to quartz watches, battery change, I don't go near water, and if anything, I can open up and kind of reseal the watches if I need to, And with the Seiko stuff, as I said, I mean, every few months I'll check the watch on time grapher. If it's running great, I'll leave it alone. If it is just gone off and it needs a service, I would just replace the movement. If I wanted to keep that watch, or a lot of the times, depending on how much use it gets, I might just leave it as it is, because for the most part it will be accurate for a day or two, and that's the longest I'll wear it probably. So hopefully that answers your question. Next one down is Flying Hawaiian 57. I like how that sounds, that name. So I'd imagine I know the answer to this just from the sheer number of watches you have. But would you rather have 5 or 6 more affordable watches, or 1 or 2 expensive watches? What would be an ideal number of watches to own? I didn't count how many you had in your State of the Collection video, but I would hazard a guess you could go a month or two wearing a different watch every day. What criteria are you planning on using to narrow your collection down? I would have 5, 6 affordable watches or 1 or 2 expensive watches, because it depends if you just like that amount of choice. And then what would be an ideal number of watches to own? I don't know. I think I covered aspect of this in the last video. It's down to you, and it's very difficult to gauge, because if you're into AliExpress, yeah, that's when it really skyrockets, and that's what happened with me. And then I built my Seiko collection just after that. If it's brands which are kind of, around the £400 to £500 mark, you won't have that much of a big collection. But again, if you're well off, if you're minted, then you'll just buy watches like nothing. But criteria wise, it's just mood. It depends. It's not how often I wear a watch, because there's watches in the collection which I won't wear, but I know I just need to keep hold of them. But it'll be stuff like, I think rarity is one, definitely, which stops me selling a watch. I asked the question, can I get it again? Because when I started off my journey into watch collecting, I bought and sold a lot. As I said, I was funding the hobby in that aspect. And what I found was, once I sold something, I knew it should be in my collection if I wanted it back. So there's a few watches where I thought, I want to get that back. I really miss it. Then that kept a place in the collection, and one of them was the Seiko Samurai. So this great dial. I bought it, sold it within a week, and then I thought, I want it again. And I waited a few months and got another one. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place, to be honest. So thank you for the question. Next one, Boosh Bool. Congrats, 10k are coming soon. Yeah, soon enough. Well deserved. Thank you. Which watch do you own that you'd offer to your son as a heritage watch? If he's into watches, I don't know what'll happen at that time. If I got loads, I'll say, here's all of them. Or I'll give them out to random people, I suppose. But nothing in particular. And the next one down, John Holcomb. What do you consider the best movement in the lower end and the mid-range price bracket? Lower end, no brainer, it's going to be the Seiko NH85, but that lower end also covers the Miyota 9015 with the 9000 series. You've also got the new 8315, which is a lot better than the 82. And the PT5000, I'm a bit iffy about it, because I've had a few which aren't the best, and to date I've had all working Miyota 9000 series. Mid-range, it definitely has to be the ETA 2824, also the SW200, the SW300, the GMT variety. So yeah, I think they're great. I've not had no experience with anything else really, but those movements cover a lot of your watches. So that's a good question. Thank you for that, John. I'm in the last few questions, so great news. You can go to sleep soon enough. As you can see, my eyes are a bit red, and it's bedtime for me as well. So Jacob Klein, question is, when buying watches for review, how do you deal with the inflow and outflow of watches purchased? Must be a nightmare to manage sales as a side hustle. It is. It all gets a bit, and that's probably the problem. I'm not just doing YouTube. You know, like I said, I'm doing a fair bit of buying and selling, and the watches I was reviewing, so I was buying quite a few steel dive watches, Heimdall watches, selling them on my eBay. Everyone knows that. Does it cause any ethical issues? No, it doesn't, because you don't sell the crap stuff. But you know what you buy is stuff that you know is good, so you don't have to deal with returns. Um, a lot of the times, to be honest, you're always chasing, because I've got watches just sitting around. I'm looking at them right now, which I need to probably list, or I've got them sitting for giveaways. So it's quite difficult to kind of manage. You have to be pretty easygoing, otherwise you'll just be consumed by doing so much. You know, I've got a bunch of seasonal watches as well that I put on my eBay store. So yeah, it's just in and out, in and out, and you just do it a day at a time, I suppose. So next question, Burner Flex. Congrats, G. My guy, my guy. So question is, my favorite part of watches is looking at the dials. And my favorite dial is the Cherry Blossom Snowflake from a Grand Seiko SVG A413. I know exactly what you're talking about. What's your favorite? That is a really good, nice dial, the Cherry Blossom. I was going to mention that as I think the previous question I had about which you know, watch dials that you've seen are the best. It's in around those style of dials. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Sunburst dials as well, but Seiko with that textured stuff they bring out. Also like that, I think that 10 grand Grand Seiko 20th anniversary edition or 15th anniversary with that lion main dial. Again, a stunner. And especially now, there's so many other dials coming out from, you know, the Grand Seiko level. They're all amazing to look at. So yeah, I do agree with the Cherry Blossom Snowflake as well. So thanks for the question. Next one, Shuk Hamid. Congratulations, man. Buying affordable watches is addicting. Yeah, tell me about it and tell everybody else watching these videos. Do you have an exit strategy for the hobby? If yes, what? If no, why? I don't know what exit strategy is. If I was going to leave the hobby, I'd just drop it. But being on YouTube, you know, got to give respect to the people watching, so I might just be courteous and drop in a video saying, look, I'm leaving, whatever, whatever. But I'll probably keep a bulk of the watches. Yeah, because you've got them, you know, they're paid for. It's not like I've lost anything on there. So it's only surplus, and if I'm lucky, they'll all get discontinued, and then I can, you know, do that Seiko game and whack on another £500 just for the sake of it. Why not? If no, why? Yeah, I'm just in it at the moment. I know I made a couple of videos where it was a bit slow, but I've just got to manage my time better. So I've got to realign how I do it. And again, pumping out 3-4 videos a week is difficult. It's not manageable now. So why put myself through it and just do 1 or 2 videos a week tops? If you know, if I lose views due to somebody else doing a video before me, doesn't matter. Just what's best for you. You know, it's all about work-life balance in life. That's what I find. So that's the end of the question. So fantastic. I think I'll leave it at that because I want to announce the winners, but I'm conscious not everybody might watch this lengthy video and there's a chance you might not get your name. So tune in to another, let's do a part 3 where I'll just mention the winners and the watches. Now I've kind of highlighted how many winners there will be, looking at some of the questions, and I've got, let me just scroll up, there's 1, 2, 3, yeah, so there's about 6, I think, winners. So I'll announce them. I'll just get another 2 watches from, you know, the giveaway box I've got, and I'll give your names out, guys, and then, you know, hopefully you can contact me and I can send them out to you. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.